The top story right now for the Ukraine conflict is the Bucha Massacre. Bodies have been found after a withdrawal by Russian forces from Kiev, allegedly have been killed by Russian troops. The media has been quick to denounce Russia, but not all of the facts are in regarding this incident. According to the Kiev Independent, on the 4th of March, Russian forces killed 3 unarmed Ukrainian civilians who were driving back from delivering food to a dog shelter. Around 7:15 a.m. on the 5th of March, a pair of cars carrying 2 families trying to escape were spotted by Russian soldiers as the vehicles turned onto Chekhlova Street. Russian forces opened fire on the convoy, killing a man in the second vehicle. The front car was hit by a burst of machine gun fire, instantly killing 2 children and their mother. Not all media has been quick to blame Russia. China's ambassador to the United Nations, Zhang Jun, echoed such a sentiment. The relevant circumstances and specific causes of the incident should be verified and established. Before the full picture is clear, all sides should exercise restraint and avoid unfounded accusations. The fact is that there's a great deal of suspicious aspects to this claim of a Russian massacre that don't add up. Things that just don't make any sense and would seem to indicate that it was actually local forces by the Ukrainian government that did the killings. So there's a bit of a timeline here that doesn't really make any sense. So on the 30th of March, Russian troops withdraw from Bucha. On the 31st, the mayor of Bucha announces the town has been liberated, but he makes no mention of the atrocities, which would have been the perfect time to do so. April 1st to April 2nd, the Azov battalion enters Bucha. On April 3rd, the Ukraine Ministry of Defense publishes videos of so-called Russian atrocities. Don't you think it was just a little bit suspicious that this came out only after the Azov battalion had been there for a day or two? And they didn't report it right away, which would have actually been very much required of them. Another problem with this story is that it's not in Russian interest to do so. What would be the point of going after these individuals? It would benefit them in no way. It would only make them look bad. Like, there's just no point. The only way that this makes sense, or Russia killed them. Why? It's not even in their interest to do so. Oh, because they're evil. Yeah, Russia had already decided to withdraw, so what would be the point of killing them? And the only way that this makes sense, the only rationalization people can come to is that Russia just must be inherently evil, that's why they killed them. I mean, that's kind of nonsense. There are reasons behind these things. You know, they don't go through all of this tactically, politically, and militarily to just do something that makes no sense. And what's interesting is that the NATO-aligned media has already admitted that Ukraine is causing much of the civilian deaths. Now here's an example from the Washington Post. I'm very reluctant to suggest that Ukraine is responsible for civilian casualties because Ukraine is fighting to defend its country from an aggressor, said William Chavez, an international law professor at Middlesex University in London. But to the extent that that Ukraine brings the battlefield to the civilian neighborhoods, it increases danger to civilians. Ukraine's strategy of placing heavy military equipment and other fortifications in civilian zones could weaken Western and Ukrainian efforts to hold Russia legally culpable for possible war crimes, said human rights activist and international humanitarian law experts. Last week, the Biden administration formally declared that Moscow had committed crimes against humanity. If there is military equipment there, and the Russians are saying that we are launching at this military equipment, it undermines the assertion that they are attacking intentionally civilian objects. And civilians, said Richard Weir, a researcher at Human Rights Watch Crisis and Conflict Division, who is working in Ukraine. It is also worth mentioning that Ukraine and its security forces have already been found massacring their own civilians. This has been, again, something that was put into the mainstream media. And this is an example right there from, obviously, the mainstream media for the most part. Once we add on top of this the fact that Russia has been calling for an investigation, independent investigation into this alleged incident, and it's not being taken seriously by the UN, and there seem to be forces behind the scenes in the NATO-aligned NATO-aligned countries who are seeking to push away from actually having an independent investigation, makes this whole thing very suspicious. Now, the Russian soldiers may have actually carried out this massacre, but on the surface, it doesn't make the claim doesn't make much sense. There's nothing in it for them, and there's logical inconsistencies here. The Ukrainian government would have been sitting on the story for several days before putting it out, which doesn't make any sense. So it's all very suspicious, and what we need is an independent investigation to determine the facts of the situation. And that is something that the United Nations feels is not something that's going to be forthcoming anytime soon.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.